Okay, assalamu alaikum. We're back again with our honor guest, Sister Michelle, coming from Philadelphia. And we're really glad to have you on here, Michelle. We really get to talk about a lot of things, openly and honestly. And, there's been a lot of positive feedback, about, what we're trying to do here. And we always want to get input from Muslims from all walks of life. Um, I guess what we kind of envision is that, you know, like, you know, the every, I guess Muslim subculture, they kind of have their own little niche. They have their own, they kind of run their own masjids. They have their own restaurants, and they have like this kind of sub community, but they still belong to like the greater, Muslim community. Which I think is great. I mean, like, you have, like you said, like we know best the plight of our own people. But still, like, there's still within Islam, this feeling that, like you belong to part of the greater ummah.
Mhm.
So I guess what we kind of envision is that, like, let's say, for example, an Islam for Europeans mosque opens up, and, like in some small town, you know, like, say, for example, somewhere in Kansas, like, and there's like a sub community of like 100, uh, you know, uh, European descendant Muslims. And, they have their own, motel, or, like a restaurant and masjid. And, like all Muslims would be invited there. Like, and they would pray in the same rows as us. They would, if it was during Ramadan, they're more than welcome to come for iftar, and we would give them all their Islamic rights. Because if I'm thinking about, like Muslims traveling, say, for example, from the East Coast to the West Coast by car, they're going to go through this long stretch of land where, there's going to be, just a sea of, uh, European Americans who have varied, opinions on Islam.
Mhm.
Some have no problem with it, some like it, and there's a lot of hate out there, towards, Islam and minorities in general. So it's got to be, like, you know, kind of a frightening experience. But like to go there to actually see like a Muslim community where, it's kind of like a pit stop, I think would be a good thing. As long as, like you said, you don't feel that you're superior, to any group in any particular way. I mean, like, the only thing that, Allah judges us on is taqwa.
Mhm.
um and in the same vein, like, I would love, to have a group from Islam for Europeans come and visit, a mosque run by the African American Muslim community and break bread with them. But at the end of the day, like, like the African American Muslim community, they have to have control of their own masjids and communities. Is that something that, you can envision in the future, that you think that the African American Muslim community would be cool with? What kind of roadblocks would we run into?
As far as like like having our own, but also being connected to others.
Absolutely. So, staying in contact and, being on good relations, with, other Muslim communities,
I think that having a relationship with other Muslim communities is not our biggest issue.
Mm,
I feel like our biggest issue is that we want to follow everybody else like
mm,
their issues is our issues and we take them on.
mm,
We have a so like again like I feel like every time like there's a some plight of someone else's, we take it on like it's ours.
mm.
But then when it's our own plight, it's like, well, you know how Black people are. You know this, you know that. And we have become desensitized to our own pain and our own struggles.
Mm. Right. Is that kind of akin to, like a lot of people, they want to help other people, but they haven't helped themselves first. And
Hmm.
if you're not, like healthy, like, a charity begins at home, I guess is the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Charity
Yeah,
begins.
absolutely. I mean, and I think, I completely, I couldn't agree more, Michelle. And, like, I mean, dua, like you said, is so powerful, and it's the most important thing, because Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is in control of all things. And only through dua can we, like, can Allah, you know, change the qadr, basically. So I think, like making dua for, all the benefit of all Muslims, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala improves our situation around the world as an ummah,
Mhm.
is important. But like you said, like, like we need to focus on our own communities first so we can be healthier, like, and because that's what we want at the end of the day.
Mhm.
um like there's still overlap. I mean, like, like a lot of, like for us, like usually when we convert to Islam, like there's no one in our friends and family and no one in our town that's Muslim.
Mhm.
So we're just one person. And, like to think, like to think that we shouldn't, collectivize as a group of European descendant Muslims so we can better give dawah to our friends and family. I
Mhm.
mean, that is the most important thing for us, because like at the end of the day, the people who are like, you mentioned Trump, the MAGA supporters who are, protesting at masjids and, throwing
Mhm.
pigs heads at mosques and defacing masjids and saying horrible things about Islam. Those are our friends and family. Those are our aunts. Those are our uncles.
Mhm.
Those are our brothers and sisters. So the best thing for us is to directly give dawah to them. So even though like it sounds like we're just working on our own people and make sound selfish, at the end of the day, it indirectly helps the rest of the Muslim community.
So that's why I like to tell people to change their narrative, because that narrative of saying selfish, that's for people, to me that comes from rich whites to control the working class, because it's, why are you being so selfish? Why are you not working harder?
Hmm.
Why are you putting yourself first?
Hmm.
At the end of it all, if I'm not right in the head, how can I be right for somebody else? So, and I tell people all the time, like, well, why can't I said, is it really selfish or is it self-care? Because taking care of yourself is also worship.
Hmm.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted you and gave you a body that you should take care of.
Hmm.
That's worship too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, a lot of times when people convert to Islam, like they're expecting, the Muslim community to like take them in, when they had this whole host of problems. I mean, their families, they may not have even told their family, like, maybe they got a haram job, maybe they're working at the casino or a bartender. And they're going into a Muslim community that has their own problems. I mean, like, a lot of uh Muslim communities that come from other backgrounds, a lot of them are first gen, or they just came here, and they're struggling themselves. And a lot of them, they're working like maybe 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And you have these converts where they're expecting, all the social loss that they've incurred, from like, converting to a religion that's traditionally seen as the enemy of their people. The mosque, a lot of the times these families, they have enough on their plate already. So I don't see how, just converting to Islam is just going to solve all of these problems. I mean, it's
No,
crazy.
no, but no. The thing is, Islam will solve everybody's problems, all the problems. The problem is everybody has to step up. The problem is you have a small group that be like, okay, let's do this, but that's not enough. Everybody has to do it collectively, because let's just, so like, if let's just say hypothetically, everybody in Philadelphia that's Muslim was like, you know what, we're going to step up to the plate, and when people need this, it will happen. It takes a burden off of any one person. Do you know how many? So if somebody convert, do you know how many seamstress we have in Philadelphia? Like, I swear, I feel like everybody's a seamstress. Like on, you know. So you come in, it's like, even if you had 100 seamstress, but like, I'll make you one garment, you don't have to pay for it. That's done.
Hmm.
If everybody in the community was like, a sister be like, oh my God, I'm about to lose my house because I'm working at a casino and I want to quit my job because it's haram. And even if in Philadelphia, I'm not saying other places, if one person gave a freaking dollar, even just $1, because
Hmm.
we have hundreds of Muslims, even if they just gave $1, that person would be covered until they can find something else.
Mm, mm,
The problem is people like you and it's people like us that want to save the whole world and we can't, and it becomes discouraging when everybody has to do it. Everybody has a part to play.
mm,
Everybody can do it. I have Muslims on my block right now. Let's just say SEPTA stopped working for whatever because they love shutting down over here.
mm,
And me and another person, both work downtown. Drive them. Like but no, we like, you ain't getting in my car. I don't know what you got. You're already going there. Just take them.
mm,
You know, um, we don't know our neighbors, like back then. Like we don't know them. Like I can't even tell you my neighbor's name. My mom tell me it all the time. I'm like, oh, that's her name.
mm.
Or
Yeah.
like, but we all have to do it, and we
Mm,
all have to step up to the plate and take care of each other. Because even like I'm recently, because like when I first decided to go down this journey and be like, you know what, I want to start offering services properly. I'm like, I'm like the only Muslim in Philly that's a therapist. And then I had somebody friend request me that's like a therapist that's Muslim, and I'm like, so where were you? Was you hiding in the closet somewhere? Like I don't understand. It's so many people that need you. They need your service.
mm,
Why are you not putting yourself out there?
mm. Yeah, I mean, there's so many resources that Muslims have that are just not being used in like in the right way. And there could be enormous benefit in that. I mean, it's absolutely essential that we need uh, more therapists. But you're right. I mean, we all need to step up to the plate. We all need to like take the initiative to improve the situation of Muslims all across North America. Um, so yeah, I mean these are all really good things. I mean, like I think like allocating your resources in the right way is really important. And there's a lot of fields that were kind of really lacking. I mean, like therapy is only one of like many other areas in which we need Muslims like everywhere. Like getting into fields that we don't normally go into. Um, you know.
But you know what's so sad though? If we really genuinely had a community, my position wouldn't be obsolete. We wouldn't even need it.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
again, when you have a community, everybody is there for each other. They pick up where the other person is falling short. And a lot of times, like I can't remember what tribe it is in Africa. When they first become pregnant, they go and like write a song about the baby, and they teach the entire village that song, and then when the baby come out, they sing that song to the baby all the time, and then when they get in trouble, like when they start getting older, they sing that song to them again. And basically what it does, it realigns them there, like this is not who I am, and it brings them back to like, we love you, we've done, that's their own way of doing it. But again, when you're there for each other, a lot of those, crimes and stuff like that goes down, because now you're not going to want to rob the person that you love. Like,
Hmm.
don't get me, I
Hmm.
mean, even though people are like, well, such robbed me and they loved me, but no, that's not the same. And this is not what I'm talking about. Um, and that's one of the reasons why, like, when I do talks, I'm like, oh goodness, because sometimes people forget that there's nuances to everything,
Hmm.
and they'll take you at face value and they try to box you into this thought process. It's like, no, I'm just talking about in a generality. People really don't want to rob and hurt the person that they love.
Hmm.
Um, and we just all need to step up.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've become more so like atomized, with each passing year. Like everything is online. I mean, COVID, created a huge hit for
Yeah.
people. I mean, everything is just no one interacted with each other for years, and it just like just being able to, because they just finally got rid of the I guess the mandates here for business, or just being able to sit down with people. I mean, that
Mhm.
is just like a rarity now, and like in like a restaurant. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely agree that, we need to be there for one another and to have this sense of community again, because I think that's really lacking, in today's society. I mean, like we just kind of just live in our own houses. We don't you don't reach out to our neighbors, and yeah, I mean, even you said about rides. I mean, like like now, like people are at the point where no one knows anybody on the block, and if you have to go somewhere, you end up paying like $20-$30 for an Uber, you know, one way.
Yes.
When you could have got a ride from like someone who's just going in the same direction.
Mhm.
um so may Allah like strengthen the hearts of everyone, and like make it so that we get kind of back to this community experience of being in a Muslim community. um any other questions for me? Like ask as many hardball questions as you want, Michelle. I don't know if you had one in your mind. I-
No, I think that you are doing a great job, and I don't, and I think that again, like we was talking about earlier, when it comes up talks about like, language is important, and starting to realize that just because someone is for something doesn't mean that they're against something else,
yeah.
you know, and I think that people should allow, you to let your personality shine through, than whatever thought processes that people may have, because I've watched a lot of your podcasts, and I absolutely love them, and I absolutely agree with them, and
Thank you.
people have to really start looking at their own self, because I always say, like, don't get me wrong, sometimes somebody might be triggering, but sometimes you're triggered because of who you are and not because of who someone else is.
Mm.
And because granted, you know, I understand racism is out there and it may be perceived as bad, but you have to put those things aside and put aside your own conditioning of what certain stuff means.
Mm.
Just because someone organized something for the, because it's funny because it's that double-edged sword where it's like, oh my goodness, you doing something for white people, they have everything, but why not? Like, but why not? Like, are you
Yeah.
upset that you won't do it? Like, why don't you do it for yours? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so no, I absolutely love what you're doing, Phil.
Alhamdulillah, Michelle. Thank you for your support. I mean, but I understand, at at least I can sympathize with the fact that there's going to be a lot of backlash from people who don't understand, because, like you said, like, it's easy to say that that whites are in a more advantageous position. I mean, like, why try to even increase that when in actuality, I mean, we're calling our people to Islam, um and even if they read the Quran and become believing Muslims, I mean, like, if you're gonna try to act racist or oppressive in any way to a people, Allah is going to call you into account for that. And that's, I think, is the best remedy against a racism, because like, now, like, that your creator is watching you. So I mean, if anything, like, we need Islam. We need, like, our communities are drowning in alcohol abuse and drug use.
Yes.
And like, I just think of my hometown, like, people will just drink an entire case of beer and drive to the casino and spend $1,000 and
Yeah.
drive all the way back just drunk. And I'm just like, how? I mean, you can't sustain a society like this. And
No, you cannot.
no.
But you know what? The number one, because a lot of times, because I had to tell people this all the time. They say, oh, marijuana. They'll say marijuana is a gateway drug. Marijuana is not a gateway drug. Trauma is the gateway drug,
Mm.
because it your body, your mind wants release.
Mm.
Like, and if trauma is not dealt with when it happens and when it occurs, it's going to continue to impact you. And when you take that first sip of alcohol, because people experiment, and then you might have a full-blown on addiction. I have yet to meet one person who has substance use problems that didn't have trauma. Not one person.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really affecting all. I mean, like, a lot of these people, they're drinking a lot of alcohol because they came from like abusive households, um, and like it's, they're just trying to like numb themselves from like bad experiences, and it's just not. It's just turning it into a downward spiral. And I think that's part of what leads to people having these like short attention spans and thinking, and then that's when it just adds to the whole Islamophobia slash racism, because they just have they don't have the ability to think these things through. So when they get brainwashed by all this propaganda, this like, whether it's anti-Islam propaganda or what have you, or pro-war propaganda, they just think, oh yeah, let's go and bomb them. And it's just terrible. I mean, that's just, like, it's a sickness. And us, like dealing with our family members who think that way, it's our responsibility to give dawah to them. And not everyone thinks that way. I mean, like, I did a poll on Twitter recently, just from this Twitter account that's from the Freedom Convoy in Canada. Did you know about did you see the Freedom Convoy in Canada, Michelle, where they were protesting against like the mask mandates and everything? Yeah. So basically 99%, white Canadians in this thing. And I asked them, like, what are your thoughts on Islam? And the poll is basically the four options were positive, neutral, slightly negative, highly negative. And the results were 20% had a positive view of Islam, 37% had a neutral view of Islam. So 57% had either a neutral or positive image of Islam. 14% were slightly negative, and 29% was highly negative. Which, it makes sense, because there's always going to be haters out there who have like a negative perception of Islam. But there's still people out there among that group who, like think that Islam is a positive force in people's lives. And, like it has really good things to say about, belief in God and everything. So there's still people out there that you can talk to. It's just that it's taboo to talk about Islam in like these communities. So I think it's there, but to your average, to Muslims, either from like a Arab or South Asian background, or from the African American Muslim community, I can understand why they think that number, of people who hate Islam it would be much higher, and that it's almost impossible to get them to change their minds. So I always want to keep that in mind when I'm doing these kinds of things, that people are they're gonna think that it's gonna be almost impossible to get them to change their minds on Islam. So
I think that the best dawah is your character.
Yeah.
Even before you approach the person, I see a lot of people that over talk, like you'll have somebody like they're giving dawah, but they don't listen. You can't give somebody dawah on things that you don't even know what their issue is about.
True.
Because a lot of especially like people who may have like Christian backgrounds, some of them don't think that we believe in Jesus, but you're not going to get there if you don't see what their position is or what they actually believe. So you might be missing a mark on whatever. I don't know, but listening is so important. And I always tell people, like, that's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you can listen twice as much as you talk.
Yeah, I wish I should take that advice more common. I'm a blabbermouth, so.
Just listen to what people have to say. And the thing is, I can't tell you, people want you to, like, people always be like, I'm an introvert, I try to stay to myself. People want other people to know who they are genuinely. They want that. And if you be quiet long enough, they will tell you, and you don't have to pry it out of them. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, I'll be on the sit down and a guy would just be talking and he'd be like, I don't know why I'm talking so much. I just can't stop. And I'm like, it's okay. Because saying it's okay to just be you is powerful in of itself. Even though I still but
You're
but
breaking
the
up on
point
me.
is allowing people to talk.
Michelle, you're breaking up on me. I think the satellite that you're on is experiencing interference. Could you repeat that last part you said?
Yeah, I said people want to be known, and you gotta allow people to be able to be known, you know, and allowing them to talk and just get all of the stuff out. Like, you'll be surprised. Like, I've had, people come to me that don't know me, and they'll just be like, I don't know why I feel so close to you. And I'm like, it's not that I'm doing anything special. I just shut my mouth.
Mm.
Like, I'm not doing anything that anybody else couldn't do. Just allowing people to talk and be themselves and not feel, I'm not gonna say judge, because I think people use judge out of context, judgment, but not being condemned for the wrongs that they've done and things like that. I think that's important, to allow people to do that and be that.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. And the best dawa is like you said, is our actions. I mean, a lot of people, they don't want to hear about it, especially if they have a negative perception of it. They don't want to hear about Islam. With those people, I mean, especially if they're our own relatives, like the best thing you can do is, just lead by actions, and over time they will see how Islam, changes you for the better, in that you're not, like you're leading an upright lifestyle, and that you're being good to your families. And I find that is the best way to change, the hearts and minds of the people. I mean, like I know at times we can be very how do you say, motivated and really like bright-eyed about like talking about Islam because we love it so much. But like a lot of people, they're just reluctant to talk about religion in general a lot of times. Oh, your audio cut out. I can't hear you.
No, it's
Oh,
because some background noise I was putting on mute.
oh,
But
okay.
what I was going to say was that I think too, a lot of times when people, because again, they get this idea that once you be like with Islam, that we are religious, and some people are, they are religious, but this is really a way of life. It's beyond, it transcends religion. It's spiritual. It's like everything all together. It's your way of life. It's your spirituality. It's your religion. It is everything. But I think that some people become so hypocritical of other people that they negate their own stuff, which makes people feel like, oh, you're a hypocrite. And granted that sometimes things are taken out of context, but you gotta show people your human side too. And I think that's where it gets a little dicey, is that I am human. Sometimes people present themselves as perfect. Nobody is perfect. And so when you try to present yourself as perfect, and then it makes you seem hypocritical and a hypocrite, when there may not be intention, or maybe intentions, I don't know. But just being, showing your human side. So like, I always try to, when I do interviews like this, I always tell people some dark secret of mine, so that people know, like, just because I'm a therapist, just because I do trauma therapy, I still got my own problems. I'm not perfect. It's just, I would never be perfect, but I'm striving and I'm trying to get there as best as I can. And I take ownership of all my own problems and trying to work through them. But you have to do that too, because that's important. It humanizes you. And people, they don't humanize themselves enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like, at the end of the day, we're just, we're people. I mean, like, yes, like Islam is great for reforming, individuals and society. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a lifelong journey. I mean, like, even though I said before the Sahaba, I mean, like, like in the Meccan period, then it was all about belief in Allah, strengthening their belief in God, and it wasn't until years later that many of the ahkam, like the rules, came down. Fasting during Ramadan and hijab was one of the last things to be revealed. Um, so yeah, I think presenting ourselves as human, like I think that's very important, just because like again, like people are gonna be drawn to this deen, but without if you're portraying that we're all going to be we all have to be angels. I mean, that's just not realistic. And I think I remember before I converted to Islam, I worked in a restaurant for Muslims, and like they weren't practicing at all. I mean, like I want to get into details, but like it made me realize that like we're not, none of us are angels, that we're always going to be doing bad things, and shaitan is going to go after us because we're believers, the strongest. But like that doesn't mean you give up. You still want to strive and become like a like a better human being, because like that's like at the end of the day like what we want, how we progress as humans. Yeah, so this is a great interview, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, like I'm really glad that you are, that like we were able to talk about these things. And I thank you for supporting Islam for Europeans as well, like for listening to our podcast and stuff. And like I want to read, I've been watching some of your podcasts as well, and I think you're doing really great work. May Allah grant you loads of success in that arena.
And meanwhile, and I just wish you all the success, because again, it's about saving people. People don't realize that I'm saving your life now, and hopefully, inshallah, save your akhirah. So it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Thank you. And like definitely want to keep more of these conversations going. If you know anyone from like your community who wants to get in touch with me, whether the feedback is positive or negative or inquisitive, like I'm always open for like conversations like this. So
Absolutely.
yeah, good. Okay, great. Okay, so did you want to give a last final plug for your channel, Michelle, where people can find you?
Um, yes, I could be found on Facebook, but Michelle Renee Davis. Or you can go to my YouTube, and is everyone the number one underscore favorite therapist on YouTube. But if you go to any podcast, like Apple Podcasts, if you type in my full name, Michelle Renee Davis, all my podcasts will come up on any of those podcast outlets. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Good. Good. Awesome. Great. And my name is Robert. You can find me on the Twitter handle Robert of Canada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us all the best and keep us safe from harm, and give us success in this life and the next. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.